본격적으로 인사이트 인투 디 오션 2023 국제포럼을 시작해 보도록 할 텐데요. 오늘 기조강연은 로테르담 해양박물관의 관장이신 버트 보어 님의 강연이 준비가 되어 있습니다. 해양유산의 과거, 현재, 미래의 가치를 재조명하는 강연인데요. 과거와 현재의 연결, 그리고 미래의 연계, 해양유산의 가치라는 주제로 기조강연을 해주시겠습니다. 버트 보어 관장님을 여러분 영상으로 만나보겠습니다.
In 1972, more than 40 years ago, the astronauts of the Apollo 17 took the first picture of the planet Earth. They called our planet the blue marble. And this is quite obvious when you look at this picture. More than 70% of the surface of our planet is water. And with global warming, this percentage will increase even more. What is also increasing is the world population. And with more and more people living on this planet, we will have to look careful to what the oceans can offer to mankind and how mankind can make a sensible use of the oceans. And in my opinion, this is exactly what maritime museums are all about. A maritime museum should not only deal with historic ships and shipping. The main message should be about the oceans, healthy oceans for a healthy world. Not only as a means of transferring goods from A to B by large ships, and maybe we should do that a little less, but also for other things, energy from the sea, food from the sea, and not only fishing in the way like hunting, but more in terms of responsible sea farming. And we can tell about recreation on the sea, living on the sea, and setting up nature parks in the ocean. And in that aspect, the new United Nations Treaty that 30% of the free oceans should be protected in 2030 can be considered as a giant step in the right direction. Next sheet, please. Good day to you all at the International Forum in Busan, South Korea. My name is Bert Boer and I serve as the Managing Director at the Maritime Museum in Rotterdam, the Netherlands. In June this year, a delegation from the Korean National Maritime Museum visited the Netherlands, and from what I've seen and heard, I must say I'm truly impressed by the Busan Museum. And it's a great honor and pleasure for me to give here today an online presentation at the Insight into the Ocean 2023 International Forum organized by the National Maritime Museum of Korea, the Korea Maritime Institute, and the Korea Institute of Ocean Science and Technology. Next sheet, please. During my online presentation, I will be covering 5 points. First, I tell about the history of the Maritime Museum Rotterdam, with a particular focus on our collections. We have the privilege to be entrusted with the care of one of the world's largest maritime collections, and I will explain how that came to be. Second, I will tell about our approach, how we use the collection to tell stories to the public. Stories about yesterday, about today, and the most important part is to make our visitors think about tomorrow. And third, we will give insight in our visitors, our main strategy to tell stories on the basis of objects from our collection. Stories to a broad range of audiences: school children, families, elderly people, employees of maritime companies. Fourth, I will zoom in on our museum exhibitions, indoor as well as outdoors in our historic museum harbour. And I will provide an overview of what visitors can experience in Rotterdam. And at the end, I will focus on our award-winning offshore energy exhibition. Next sheet, please. As you can see on this map, with the worldwide transportation patterns, Rotterdam is the biggest harbour in Europe, a centre for maritime industry, And it's no coincidence that Rotterdam has, for almost 150 years now, a maritime museum located in its city centre. The museum originated from the Royal Dutch Yacht Club, established in 1845. The club aimed to inspire young people to pursue maritime careers, as the members of the club believed that shipping was crucial for a country's development. It was a time of great advancements, with the opening of the new Rotterdam waterway canal and the introduction of the first iron seagoing steamships. It was on the eve of the Second Industrial Revolution. And to showcase their passion, the members of the Royal Yacht Club decided to build up a naval collection in the ground clubhouse room. And in 1874 the museum opened to the general public. The club disbanded in 1880 and the city government of Rotterdam took over the collection and the museum. And to this day, the city government is the biggest and most important partner of the museum. Next sheet, please. Here you see the port of Rotterdam. It stretches for more than 42 kilometers, from the city center in the east to the so-called Second Maasvlakte, built in the last decades on land reclaimed on the North Sea. More than 42 kilometers length, and I don't know whether there are any marathon runners in the audience, but 40 kilometers is quite a long way. And this makes Rotterdam the biggest port of Europe, and therefore Rotterdam likes to call itself the maritime capital of Europe. Next sheet, please. Our museum collection counts among the best in the world. The collection includes over 1 million objects of Dutch marine history, dating from the end of the 15th century till the present day. The museum wants to make this collection accessible to as many people as possible, for research, to gain new insights, or simply to enjoy them, on-site and online. During the 1930s, the museum acquired the so-called Mataro model you can see on this slide. The model originates from Spain and is considered to be the oldest wooden ship model in the Western world. This model is an undisputed masterpiece in our collection, the importance of which can be compared to that of the Mona Lisa for the Louvre Museum in Paris. Next sheet, please. Our approach. Rotterdam Maritime Museum sheds light on the often invisible maritime world. Addressing a broad public, it tells the frequently surprising story of the past, present and future of the maritime sector and the impact of the sector on society at large. For some people, the coast is where the land ends. For others, it is where the world begins. This statement by former submarine commander and Prime Minister of the Netherlands, Mr. Piet de Jong, shows how we see the maritime world. It is an unknown world for many, and for others it is a world full of opportunities and possibilities, as long as you dare to look beyond the horizon. Next sheet, please. A fine example of an object intended to make people think about tomorrow is this ship of the future. It is designed by school children together with Marin, the Maritime Research Institute in the Netherlands. Ships have to become cleaner, smarter and more safe. We show the design process of the model and also the testing in the test facilities of Marin. And of course we do not know whether the ships of the future will look like this model, but it goes to show that creative minds from every age can help us in solving design's problem for the future. Next sheet, please. Currently, our museum welcomes around 200,000 visitors each year. We welcome a diverse range of visitors, including families, business groups, tourists and historic enthusiasts. Our museum is widely regarded as a fantastic outing for the entire family, a very approachable museum for young children. And visitors come from all corners of our country. And Rotterdam is also becoming a popular tourist destination, with the growing number of cruise ships calling at its city central cruise terminal each year. While we have been only tracking international visitors number for a few years, approximately 17% of our visitors come from abroad. Next sheet, please. Education. For visitors, and especially for school children, only watching is not good enough. They want to touch things, they want to do things, they want to build things, they want to learn things. And in our educational programs, we let the children discover the past and the present, and having done that, we make them think about the future. Next sheet. In our exhibitions, we want to surprise, inspire, and move our visitors. Our exhibitions must be relevant to them, tell about the impact of the maritime world on the day-to-day life. And they must always contain a connection with the present and a question to think about the future. Next sheet, please. Currently, we have two major exhibitions. The award-winning offshore experience, which I will deal with at the end of my presentation, and Destination Port City. In Destination Port City, visitors can take a ride on an imaginary subway line, setting off near the location of the medieval dam in the river the Rotte, in the center of the city, and then travel via different stages in the port area to the outskirts of the present-day world port. During their metro ride, they will find out how the port of Rotterdam grew to become the largest in Europe, and how citizens from different social and cultural backgrounds have contributed to this evolution. This exhibition is a journey through time, showing that city and port have a mutual influence on each other and are linked for centuries. Next sheet, please. To give our visitors an impression of the rich collection of the museum, we present a so-called open storeroom exhibition classified on 7 themes: loading and transshipment, people and prominent names, port ships, harbour infrastructure, inland navigation, shipbuilding and technology, migration by sea. Next sheet, please. And the museum is not only about the benefits of the Rotterdam harbour. It also wants to shed light upon the darker aspects of being a world-size harbour. And one of these aspects is the illegal import and transit of drugs. In the exhibition Dealing with Drugs, which staged last year, we wanted to tell youngsters from the age of 13 years and more the stories about drugs trafficking and the risk involved. Receiving payments for lending a hand to drug smugglers looks like easy money, but once you get involved there's no turning back, and in the end you can end up in prison or even worse. We staged this exhibition in close collaboration with the local police, the customs, the harbour authorities, the probation and aftercare services, and the Dutch Justice Department. As the theme of the exhibition was more or less controversial, it drew a lot of attention and appraisal, even from the Dutch Minister of Justice. Professor Splash. This is one of our favorites, our exhibition for smaller children. Professor Splash, or in Dutch, Professor Plons. This is a large-scale project and undoubtedly our biggest crowd puller. Professor Splash is nationwide the first museum exhibition which was directly focused on younger visitors from the age from 3 to 7 years. The exhibition concepts run for more than 30 years now, and we are working on the 5th edition. For many generations of visitors, Professor Splash has been their first acquaintance with the Maritime Museum. Next seat, please. As the museum building is located in the city center with a lot of people walking by, to attract their attention we also organize outdoor photo expositions on the windows of our museum with a focus on actual themes. In this way we can increase the number of presentations without having to change the planning of large-scale exhibitions inside the building itself. Next seat. Our museum harbour. Next to the main building is our museum harbour, where the museum presents a fleet of about 20 historic ships, vessels, cranes, propelled by idle wind, steam or motorized fuel. And even a small lighthouse is part of our collection. Many of the ships and cranes are still operational, and the ships are being used for short journeys with passengers through the harbour. The fleet is maintained and kept operational by a large group of devoted volunteers. And keeping the museum's fleet operational also confronts the museum with a moral problem. How can the Maritime Museum account for the use of fossil fuel like coal for the steam engines, while on the other hand drawing attention to the environmental threats? We are aware of the fact that the Maritime Museum is not the only institution that has to deal with this problem. Next sheet, please. Our harbour is also a place where we welcome special guest ships and have special events like Summer Carnival, the Rotterdam Marathon, the World Port Days and our own Maritime Festival. Next sheet, please. The museum restaurant. As a visit to the museum is for most visitors a nice day with the family, it is also important to have good catering facilities in the museum. We have a very friendly staff who can serve our visitors to enjoy a drink or a bite with a nice view on the terrace, on the water and a view of the museum harbour. Next sheet, please. I'm getting to the final part of my presentation, our award-winning offshore energy experience. It took us 5 years to work from plan to opening. The total cost of this exhibition were about 4.2 million euros. And this could only be realized through partnerships with funds and the maritime industry. Next sheet, please. The Maritime Museum is grateful to its partners for their contribution, partly due to the financial support, dedication and commitment. The continued existence of the Maritime Museum is guaranteed and we can realize our ambitions. The maritime sector is deeply rooted in the Dutch culture and economy. The innovation and entrepreneurial strength of this sector of the Dutch economy is something that we want to be able to feel in the museum. We are using our knowledge and our collection to translate stories from maritime practice into attractive and modern presentations for a largely non-maritime audience. The offshore experience opened in December 2016 and we have renewal plans for 2025. The offshore experience visitors set out for a challenging search for energy. They can experience what it's like at sea and even at a depth of 3,000 meters below the sea surface. We cannot live without energy. Much of our energy comes from oil, gas, wind and even solar is extracted at sea, so offshore energy. And in the last part of the exhibition, we show the public new ideas for the future, to make them aware of what's happening and again make them think of the future themselves. The offshore energy experience consists of a convincingly real-looking offshore platform constructed within the museum building. After having attended the security instructions, visitors can climb up a staircase and find themselves on the main operating deck of the platform, with the sound of helicopters passing over and the wind blowing in their hair. In the exhibition, visitors can learn all the aspects of the offshore energy business, even how they can assist a helicopter to land on the offshore platform. Needless to say that it takes a lot of practice to do it right. If they fail, the helicopter unrelentingly disappears in the sea. Next sheet, please. Offshore activities are performed on the high seas and out of sight of people ashore. The offshore experience changed that by bringing, so to speak, the offshore world to the public. By means of scale models, video fragments and several games that can be played to experience the skill that offshore workers need to perform their duties in a right and safe manner. And all this is surrounded by 360 degrees digital video wall showing the ever-changing view at the open sea. Next sheet, please. The exhibition had a brand score of 57 and got an 8.4 appreciation from our visitors. And most important, it gave the museum a structural visitors growth of about 35%. Attention is drawn to oil and gas, but it's important to shift the focus to renewable energy, like solar and wind energy and energy that can be generated by using the sea tides. And these new kinds of energy can also be found offshore. And therefore we intend to adjust the offshore exhibitions in the upcoming years, so that we can pay more attention to these developments as well. Next sheet, please. I'm going to the end of the presentation, and if you're interested and you want to come to see the museum yourself, all maritime museums of the world are invited to come to Rotterdam and Amsterdam next year. From September 15 to 20, the biannual Congress of the ICMM, the International Congress of Maritime Museums, will be held in the Netherlands, and we hope to see you there. Next sheet, please. Thank you for your attention. I wish you an inspiring day at the International Forum. It's been an honor to address you. Thank you and have a nice day.
네, 감사합니다. 버트보어 로테르담 해양박물관 관장님의 기조 강연 함께 하셨습니다.